Hey guys, today I'm gonna show you how I made this dragon egg, or more specifically the one from Game of Thrones. So I'll show you all the steps that I took to making it. So first thing, I took an actual plastic juice bottle and I just loaded that up with plaster, and I basically tried to shape it until I got roughly the shape of an egg. And then I used plaster on top of it for all the sculpting and the details. This is basically just air dried clay, and you basically just make your little clay balls and flatten them down. Initially I try to just make one little flat clay slice, let's say, but anything bigger than roughly those sides here, they just stick to the table too much and they just break apart. So you want to make this in about maybe 4 or 5 pieces. And as much as you can, try to make them as tightly packed one to the other. If you don't, it'll kind of start to warp, so the way that I'm doing here seems to work the best for me. Everything here is pretty self-explanatory. Once you have it all covered up, try to just pat down the little divisions between each layers. And until you have something roughly like this, a good basic shape. Then you're ready for the next step. So to try to make it all a little bit more even, I tried flattening it down with a few different ways. A little plastic spatula, a wooden sort of measuring stick, and the spatula didn't work, so I used the softer one, and same thing, that didn't really make it any better than just using your thumbs. So thumbs are the way to go. And then it really stuck quite a bit to the bottom of the egg. And I knew I was gonna have to lift it up and down maybe 100 times while I was sculpting it. So I just put a little piece of parchment at the bottom so it stopped sticking to the bottom. And then there was just a little air bubble there, so try to pop that so it's a nice tight fit between the clay and the plaster. So this little flat wooden stick that I took, you just try to make a little V at one end. And a slightly bigger one at the other one, and start by making just four top little scales to begin your sculpting. And there's probably a lot better tools out there than what I've used, but I haven't worked with clay all that much, so anything you have lying around sort of does the trick. Got a little bit of company there to make this more fun. So again, anything that I had laying around to try to fix the little imperfections everywhere. And for this I just used regular air dry clay, although it did crack in the end, but I'll show you when we get there, and I'll show you how to fix that. And then once you've done the top scales, flip your stick around to the bigger V end of the stick and just start pounding that in. And when you do make your impressions, make sure that you're pressing directly towards the inside of the egg and not pushing straight down. If you push straight down, it's going to pull the clay down to the bottom. You might not notice it in the beginning, but as it keeps going, it's always pulling more clay down and down, and in the end your egg shape gets kind of distorted. So just make sure you kind of push straight forward and not down. So after quite a few hours, it's starting to look pretty good. And again, that's one that I kind of messed up. So that one I pressed down for the clay, so it warped the shape, so it doesn't look as nice as what this one here looks like. And even the little V in the stick in the end wasn't big enough, so you just add a little bit of extra shape to get bigger scales. And then my egg wasn't standing as straight as I wanted it to, so I just added some clay at the bottom to make it stand better. And just a lot of little detail work. And then you guys probably don't have a random foam box lying around the house, so if you can makeshift anything to just get the egg to stand up by itself upside down. And I just used the bottom of an X-Acto knife there to try to poke the little stone holes, kind of the ones they have in the Game of Thrones. And I just used anything else that I had laying around to make different size holes so it looks more stone-ish. Then I left it upside down to dry for the night. And the next morning, either a little dragon tried to hatch or the clay dried. Either way, it cracked quite a bit since the clay inside doesn't, the plaster inside doesn't shrink, but the clay does, so it kind of forced it to crack like that. So I tried to repair it there. If you had basically just made the whole thing out of clay, you might have been okay. I'm not sure if it would have cracked or not, but my way did anyway. And I thought it was kind of hard to just push the clay by hand, so I took a little syringe that I had laying around, added more water to the clay to make it softer and easier to put in there, and you basically just inject it right into the egg. And just with a little brush, try to jam it in a little bit deeper before adding some more after. If you're doing it this way, make sure you wait until it's entirely dry and all the cracking is completely done before you start patching it, or else you'll just start patching your patches and then it's kind of just a never-ending thing. So let it dry, let it crack until it's done cracking. And basically I just try to fix the little corners there with anything I had lying around, but the knife seemed to work the best. Tried with a little electric Dremel thing here, but same thing, it was a little bit too coarse, so it didn't work any better. And even with a softer tip there, it didn't work much on the scales. Although at the bottom where it's more rocky-ish, then it seemed to do the job. So next thing is the painting. So I painted the whole thing black to begin with. That's mostly so that between the scales you would see kind of black, so it's more in detail. But I didn't particularly like it because I thought it was too shiny, and too shiny means you see the imperfections a lot more. So I just started painting over the black with a flat black instead of a gloss black. thought this looked pretty good. Didn't see the imperfections too much. But the egg is supposed to be green, not black. So next thing, I just took some light green, mixed it with some more black to have a darker green kind of look. And then painting it, try to just paint kind of straight going up and down without going kind of into the little crevices everywhere, because if you do, then you're gonna hide the black. And you want that black to kind of show the details between each single scale. As I went further down, I tried to put more or less black so that there's kind of a slight difference of colors between the top green and the bottom green. And in the ones from Game of Thrones, the bottom had a little bit of yellow into it, so I kind of tried to mix the yellow with the black and green. The green that I used, I thought it was a little bit too shiny still, because although the imperfections showed quite a bit. So I thought it looked fine, but still not completely perfect enough. So I decided to start again. So covered the whole thing black once more with a flat black. And then I bought myself some green that was more flat as well. The other one was a little too shiny. So to try to save some time, instead of painting it by hand, I ordered a little airbrush paint from Amazon. So I started using that instead. And it seemed to work pretty good. The only thing is the airbrush ended up kind of filling up the little crevices that were black. It basically painted the whole thing green, so I started adding a little bit of black once again inside. And then I tried mixing it with water so that you don't see the division as well between the black and the green, and that did a really big difference. So if you do, make sure you just use a lot more water, and then you'll barely see the kind of division between the two colors. And then on the one from Game of Thrones, there's a little bit more color at the bottom, so I added a bit more brown. I thought the first try with more yellow, I didn't particularly like the look, so with just more gray and a little bit of brown, I thought it looked better. And then when you do put the gray, make sure you just put a little bit on your brush at the end, so that you really don't hide all the black that's at the bottom. And that's basically it. So that's about the finished product. So I thought it looked a lot better using the flat colors instead of the shiny ones. And that's it. So if you'd like to make an egg, it's definitely a fun thing to do. If you'd like to have one but don't really want to make one, you can definitely order them on Amazon. I'll put a link at the bottom, and I'll also put a link of all the materials that I've used to make this egg. So if you like the video, please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next nerdy thing that I build. Thank you.